We are ready to jump back live into the action. I'm also being joined by a special guest. Some of you may know who he is. I hope most of you know who he is. It is Dust. We've casted a lot together in the past. Dust, are you here?
I am, Mo. You know, I took a short venture into trying to compete in this game, but after the duel yesterday, I've realized that my true place is behind the microphone with you, Vince. So we're back. We're back at it again.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, that was it's real feels bad, Vince, but it feels good that we get to cast some Counter-Strike together.
True, and we get to cast a pretty interesting game as well. You know, I don't know how much of these games you've been able to catch. I know you've been pretty busy lately, but this is a revenge match. This is a grudge match. Mousesports were knocked out by Endpoint earlier in this very tournament to go to the lower brackets, and now they meet each other again in the lower brackets. Now, the winner of this does qualify for the event next month. The loser has another chance. But here we go with Endpoint on the T side, pardon me, going aggressively outside towards the site, Dust, and it seems like it's a bit of a scrappy affair to kick things off.
It is, but BMAS has kind of settled that score as he's found a couple of big headshots there to really put Mousesports out in front in this round, and it only gets better for Mousesports as Chris J has joined the party. Doesn't seem to be having any trouble connecting the dots with that USP, so this seems about done and dusted, Vince.
Yeah, it does seem that way, but when you look at the HP bars on most of these CTs, they are very low. All three of them now that still stand are one bullet away from death, but BMAS makes sure that Flamesy, one of the hot prospects from Israel, the best players on Endpoint, will play no further part in this round, at least Mighty Max, who had a pretty sporadic run of results yesterday in terms of his frags, is still standing. But not for much longer. Rops will be shutting him down from the back. I tell you what, though, I was a bit worried for him for a second there. I thought he might have whiffed it, but no, Mousesports take the first round.
It's funny how hard that shot is. Like, it seems like it should be so simple when you have a freebie and someone back of the head, but I don't know, man. Something about it just can throw your mind for a loop a little bit. You overthink it, and you miss a couple of shots, but he recovered. It's all good. And indeed, we are on train, obviously. This is the map that Endpoint picked against Mousesports, and they won, I think it was in double overtime, if I'm not mistaken, in the upper bracket. So it was quite a close game, but it's a map that Endpoint favored, and they did use it to get that 2-0, as you noted. As Mousesports have certainly had their struggles in online CS, Finn. In fact, they're having such a dominant end in 2019 on the LAN circuit, with a lot of first-place finishes and top fours along with that. They really struggled in the online session that we've had here in 2020, and they've even made a roster change through all that, you know, bringing Dimas in for Voxic. So it seems like they just really need something to go their way. It's like it has been a really rough year on them.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, it's been a rough year on a lot of people with the whole COVID thing, but I feel like Mousesports are one of the teams that have been mostly affected by this when you look at their performances. And a player in particular that has come under a bit of scrutiny is Frozen. This is a guy that a lot of people had very high hopes for. When you look at his statistics, at least, it doesn't read particularly well. So I think he's due for a really good game, and maybe this is the one.
Everyone is, man. It feels like Rops is in ELO hell right now on Mousesports, man. He has been absolutely money, but everyone else has really struggled to find consistency, which I was really rooting for Chris J, you know, being back in the main op role to be able to kind of show us some of that flair that he's been known for in the past. I think he still can, but again, consistency is going to be key for Mousesports, something that's really hard to attain in this online environment. But off to a good start so far on this deco here against Endpoint. What a blinder there from Chris J on the Robin, and he quickly follows it up on the Mighty Max. That is a clinic from Chris J with the Scout. What in the world was that?
It's that was nowhere. That second shot, that flick was disgusting. And you know, we were having a chat before. And some people in the Twitch chat were saying that they think Chris J is kind of a washed up player, and I was like, what are you talking about? This guy's he's money still. He's great, and you see moments like that, and it really does shine a light for me on some of the strengths that Chris J brings to the table. But I do also agree with your point there. It seems like Rops is the only player right now that is consistently performing, and by the way, in their previous best of 3, he was a monster again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he hasn't fallen off at all. He has been on point the entire time. That is just a testament to how great of a player Rops can be. Just the other guys need to be able to be that supporting cast around him. I mean, you mentioned Frozen. That's the guy that usually has been able to be a star player in the past. Chris J, he's had his moments, and this is BMAS, where, according to him in an interview, this is his chance to play in a role that he was more familiar with and comfortable playing. You know, obviously, FaZe, he kind of got shoehorned into a lot of Olaf Meister's old roles and didn't really get to be the player that he wanted to be. On this team, he should have a little bit more flexibility into doing what he wants, but so far, he's had his struggles adapting, so I'll be curious to that. And then, honestly, let's shed some light on the Endpoint, because they've had a different kind of year. They've actually been impressive in a lot of the online tournaments that they've played, even beating some teams that you wouldn't think they should be able to touch when you look at like the international rankings. So they've really been on the up and up. Now, they've obviously suffered a huge lawsuits in their star player Thomas, but they have Flames coming in like this, young prospect from Israel, and curious to see what he's able to do on this team.
I mean, the first day that I commentated Flamesy, he was absolutely insane. Like, he dropped 62 kills in 2 maps, including a 16-6 win. Over 1.7 rating, I think it was 1.79 rating, and over 120 ADR. It was absolutely absurd. It was against Movistar Riders. And for me, that was like a real introduction to what this guy is capable of doing. Speaking of which, though, he has taken the bulk of the damage on Endpoint, a team that have had quite a rise lately, turning a lot of heads. They did lose to North in a best of 3, but they did pick up a map in the process. Carrigan with his AWP, locking down, making sure that this buy from Endpoint doesn't really yield any fruit. And Surreal bypassing the scout, spraying into ROPS, and now a real chance, a real glimmer of hope to get their first round on the board for Train. They do have some cavalry charging in, and Robin will be planting that bomb down firmly.
This is going to be a tough retake here on the mousesports, but so far they've been up to the task. They find a kill pretty early. They still have plenty of time to work this out. They have multiple kits and utility in play. Now they have the backstab from Frozen, which has unleashed mousesports onto the site. Only now Surreal standing in the middle of the bomb train. He's quickly picked up by Frozen, and that's a very dominant round for mousesports. They'll be able to now roll over a double AWP setup into this next round. This is already a much better start for mousesports compared to the last time these two teams faced on Train not so long ago. Frozen, the man that we've kind of been talking about, already at 8 frags in the 4 rounds played, so his stats are out of control at this point. And Chris Jade's off to a hot start as well. We saw that, hat trick round with the scout. Now he's got the big green in his hands, and I'm curious to see, as this Kerrigan Chris Jade double off setup looked pretty good the last best of 3 they just played against Contact, so I'm hoping they can carry that over.
Right, it did. Yeah, and Carrigan had a few very quiet moments, but by and large, he actually fragged out pretty well for mousesports. He was one of their better players. So it will be interesting to see how that double AWP works out. Flamesy needs to just stay the right side of the Molotov. There's going to be another one, though, to greet him, so he's going to have to peace out the pop dog, flash in, but Carrigan holds the line, anticipating a peak or wide swing after the flashbang. He is proven correct, and mousesports are proving themselves that that last best of 3, not a full indication of how good they can possibly be on their day. Christian 1 HP, lucky to survive. But it seems like this will not just be around for mousesports, not just a 5th, but a real economic boom on top of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, they're able to just bring over all these weapons from the previous round. Frozen has just been playing really well, obviously playing that forward ladder position. That is a position he has played on the CT side for quite a long time in mousesports' heyday, particularly on the LAN circuit at the end of 2019, where they were really working themselves up to, being perhaps the best team in the world. Like when Astralis had that post-major recovery, they were still a team that could beat Astralis head-to-head, and they had multiple top 4 finishes, including championships. And I feel like, Frozen being comfortable and being able to play those aggressive CT positions was a big part in how they had their success. It was basically at the Frozen and Voxic show if the team was going to succeed, along with Kerrigan's tactics. So good to see him off to a hot start in this game as they're up 5-0, and they have obviously Endpoint here on the low buy, as they're going to be focusing up on the triple Ivy opening.
Yeah, focusing over on the Ivy side of the map to kick things off, but just with Desert Eagles and Tech 9s, will be a bit of a grimace across on the Mixed Nation squad. The lion's share of it, UK, with the 2 players, obviously Mighty Max and Surreal hailing from the United Kingdom. Crucial is Dutch, Flamesy from Israel, and Robin from Sweden. You could say the same thing about mousesports, though. This is a multinational squad as well. There's a lot of nations being represented in this game.
Absolutely. So we can see that the utility from mousesports here is kind of stalling out this triple Ivy opening that Endpoint was looking to roll out. They want to close the distance, obviously, with those Tech 9s and try to see if they can use the rapid fire to maybe gain something. But with all that utility, they decided to just kind of reroute back into main. They still have a couple of flashbangs to use to pop flash their way out, but that's really about it. So this is going to be a tough ask of Endpoint.
A tough ask that they will look to answer. Crucial straight out with his teammates, but Carrigan picking up the first one before he is dispatched by Mighty Max, but that is the only kill that comes forward for Endpoint. Other than that, it's a rock-solid hold. They will have rifles, but already off to a 6-0 start. And thus, most of these rounds have been very quick and pretty straightforward.
Oh, no doubt about that, man. I mean, I feel like a lot of these rounds, mousesports has survived with like 4 players or maybe even all 5. Like, I've rarely seen a round come down to some type of weird, chaotic mid-round, 2v2 or 3v3 where the pressure was on. Mousesports has been skating through this. I mean, Frozen is still yet to die a single time. Chris J's only died once. Rot's only twice in the 6 rounds played. So you can see that they are really just sliding through this. Meanwhile, Robin is yet to show us anything. Same with Crucial. And I feel like with Thomas gone, players like Crucial and Robin are the ones that kind of have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, along with, Flamesy, who's kind of like the new prospect on the street. So yeah, it's been, obviously a hot start from mousesports, and the inverse, obviously, from Endpoint, just very cold so far. But they're back onto a full buy, plenty of utility, op in Crucial's hands. And so this is their chance to make a statement. And I feel like they need to make one now, because otherwise it's going to spiral out of control.
Absolutely. We may already be into that territory. They just don't know it yet. If this doesn't yield any results, then it's going to be a rough one. Chris J with 2 AWP frags, quick succession. Surreal alongside Crucial. The 2 assailants have now become the victims. How the tables have turned. Predators become the prey. But mousesports keeping things in position in a 3-on-3. They have weathered the storm a couple rounds prior to this in very similar situations. Chris J with a double is now looking to move back into connector. I can hear a dog barking on Dust's microphone. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if you guys are hearing that as well. Some good old background sounds for you to enjoy, I suppose. Now, Endpoint looking to make a move through on Ivy. They do have Flamesy, who is embarking on some journeys to potentially wrap around towards Pop Dog. Maybe try and pincer in on the CTs. It's going to be a difficult one, though, especially as BMAS with his AK-47 is hiding in position, but he's being smashed instantly from Mighty Max. And maybe this is where Endpoint can finally get themselves onto the scoreboard. Beautiful headshot again from Max, leading by example. And Rob's burning to try and take the advantage and spray through the bomb, but nothing really works out for him. And I think I heard Dust come back. That's going to be Endpoint's first round.
Yeah, Roku wanted his chance to do some co-casting. He absolutely blew it, I have to say. Who didn't blow it, though, was Endpoint, as they're going to win this round swimmingly. We're going to survive with 3 players, a good bit of utility, 2 AKs and an AWP going to roll over. And this was a big win for them, Vince, because if they had lost, while they've approached max loss bonus, sure, it really would have been limiting their buying power, and they would have been down 7-0 on top of that. So this was a really big round to win that could maybe help them try to shift the momentum in this game, because it certainly has been all mousesports all day long thus far in this series. But that's a big victory to get on the board. Really nice to see, Mighty Max in-game leader getting a couple of kills. Flamesy able to ensure that op's going to roll over with that shot there. And so Endpoint, maybe this is the foothold they need to get back in this.
Maybe. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen mousesports already today squander big opportunities. Is that a triple AWP setup that I have my eyes set on? That is ballsy.
Yeah, Vince, I can agree that you do not need your eyes checked. That is certainly triple op. This is like the one map I feel like you might actually make triple sniper work. There used to be a meta where you would do 2 ops and 1 auto sniper, like a long time ago. So a lot of long lanes, so there is some hope, but obviously on tight retakes it can be a problem. And when the T's can close distance, it also can be. But luckily, BMOS is up to the task with the M4.
2 kills, alleviating the pressure off those 3 AWPs. Chris J, aggressive, no scope to the head, and skewers Mighty Max. The kebab in Pop Dog. Now, Robin, with so much time left, I mean, you'd think with 3 AWPs you'd be playing static, stationary, and really passive. Nah, not mousesports. Sure. They go full blitzkrieg approach. They just want to bulldoze over Endpoint.
I like the reference, Blitzkrieg, German organization. I see where you're going with that. Very clever. Man, this is... I feel like you've been casting a bunch of close games that you're just marathon casting for 6 or 7 hours for 1 best of 3. You've really just been, just destroyed, I feel like, internally, Vince, with all these games. And then I come in to help you out a little bit, bring back some old memories of us casting together back when that was still a thing. And, it's all of a sudden a speed run. So Which is totally not what normally happens for us, Vince. I mean, we were the overtime kings for quite a while. Like, we would always cast these ridiculously long games at different DreamHack Open events. And now I hop on board and mousesports just steamrolling through.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's almost like mousesports have taken that last best of 3 that lasted 4 or 5 hours. It's almost like a warm-up. They're like, okay, cool, yeah, now we're warmed up, and Endpoint get wrecked. Again, though, you did mention this before. This is a map they played last time around, so maybe mousesports have learned quite a lot from that loss.
I mean, I feel like it's a map they've enjoyed in the past. It's just this whole year has really been rough on them in general. So maybe just getting back to their roots a little bit, getting back to their comfortable footing. And this is the big thing I'm noticing, Vince. I hate to like be talking during this moment because it's crazy, but how many times have we seen this now that mousesports are playing up close on this E-box and they multi-frag? I mean, that's the second time Frozen's done it. BMOS did it a couple of rounds ago. It just seems like Endpoint are never even able to get their outer execute rolling because they can't even get past the electric box.
I mean, that's a really valid point. And how long before Endpoint make the adjustments? How long before they say, okay, screw this, let's try something else? Because at the end of the day, they're running out of time now, Dust. It's 8-1. They don't have a great buy. It's a half buy at best. They've squandered a couple of their opportunities. Frozen's on 14-3 with 4 assists. Chris J's on 10 frags. Like, there are no weaknesses on mousesports at this stage, and you've kind of shot yourself in the foot if you're Endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, what, the 3rd round, I think, that they've had to go for just upgraded pistols only. I mean, their economy has been an absolute tatters really the whole way through. And when you're struggling to get things going when you have full utility in rifles, I mean, trying to do it now is a tough ask. And again, mousesports able to get the good end of the trading deal right up front here. Now, a bomb plant at least comes through from Max. So, I mean, that's like the main mission, I feel, that was looking to be taken care of in this round. The follow-up obviously would be the luxury of winning, but we know how hard that was going to be, and obviously it's not going to come to fruition, but at least they now have a little bit more spending power into the next round, which, Vince, I assume you'll agree with me here, because there really is no counter-argument, but if you want to try, go for it. But this is a must-win round from Endpoint coming up.
No, you'll have no counter-argument from me, Dust. I'm completely on the same board. I mean,
seems rather suspect. Okay, I'm just making an Among Us reference there, but you know.
The other thing as well is Robin's yet to get a kill, and we're moving into the 11th round. Collectively, they have 17 frags in round 11. They're averaging less than 2 a round.
That means Frozen almost has him covered by himself.
Exactly.
He has 15 kills. Yeah.
Yeah. It's brutal.
Add that to the list of things you hate to see, Vince. Yeah.
There's not much you love to see if you're Endpoint right now. I mean, they do have a round at least, and maybe, just maybe, if they can start to go on a bit of a streak, there are still some inroads back into this game, but for the time being, it is seemingly going to be a bleak result come the end of this map. Still some time to go, though, and Rops looking to get aggressive into the smoke. Catches Surreal in the back, and man, when it rains, it pours. Like, Endpoint just can't get anything done here.
I mean, they still have 4 players on the server at this point in time, though, so there still is some hope. But the problem is they don't really have any control. Flames trying to push this op back inside the inner halls. At least now they've pushed CTs back a little bit and denied some information towards inner side. And so now they could regather up with Flames holding this point. They could even try to do some type of inner bomb side split. They want to push the back halls and have Flames kind of coming through upper or lower ramp or something like that. So they have a couple of options now. The problem is that because defense is already in a 5-on-4 scenario, they can just kind of hold their ground. They can feel comfortable leaving a second player to help assist the B defense. They still have 4 position with Frozen inside the ladder room, which can hear players transition if they make enough noise. And I mean, they're well set up for everything. The only weakness is really the back halls, because they're playing really forward on the outer bomb site towards main and ladder. So the back halls is kind of left wide open for Endpoint to possibly use for some type of inner split.
Yeah, Ivy side's open, but they do have eyes on it from the side, and they also have Chris J watching from the spawn side, who has now just made his presence felt and known. Meanwhile, though, it's all a bait. They've drawn out enough CTs to make this plant a reality, but it's all about the post-plant. Getting a plant by itself is not good enough anymore on Endpoint. They have to start converting, and it puts Mighty Max into a 1-on-5. First kill goes his way, it's clean, but no second to follow up. mousesports hit 10, and that must-win round we talked about, Dust, it's evaporated. It's no longer available.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of tough for me to really break anything down at this point, because, again, how many rounds have we seen mousesports win the round with 4 players alive? They are absolutely dominating this game. Again, they're continuing to exercise forward control on outer yard. They're not giving Endpoint any space at ladder or T main to try to set up some type of set piece in the outer bomb site. That round, it felt like Endpoint had a good look in the sense that Flames was able to push the second op back and enter, and that gave them a chance to maybe try to run some type of inner split. The problem is that Chris J was able to kind of cover his teammates backside who were holding forward position. So they had the gap covered essentially by Chris J's op after he got pushed off inner halls. And they also just kind of cut that split up. You know, they didn't allow Endpoint to pinch together. They essentially cut off one end of it. Yeah, sure, they allowed the bomb plant, but who cares at this point? It's not like mousesports are worried about economy. I mean, they're rolling in cash right now. I mean, they could pay off my student loan debt at this point. So they're doing a great job here. And meanwhile, Endpoint has still really yet to find anything that works, and particularly Robin, who still has yet to figure out how to kill someone in this game.
And the plot thickens. Endpoint hoping that rounds at least thicken up, at least by one. Like on the end of this half, surely you get at least two. But the way that mousesports have been playing and just manhandling Endpoint, I'm not even sure that's possible. They come through Ivy again. They have been given this area of the map a few times already. But Carrigan has been able to repel them single-handedly in the past. He does look back over there again. Meanwhile, aggression from Rops allows them to stack 4 players over on A. Carrigan now peeks with a flashbang. Even though it detonates in his eyes, it will not do enough to stop him from capitalizing with the AWP. Smoke tossed in to extinguish the Molotov, but the bomb has been put 6 foot under alongside Robin's corpse, who is still yet to get off the mark. He's 0 and 10, and his woes continue, and they grow. Rops in the smoke, waiting to push, waiting for it to clear so he can take down Crucial, and he does so with ease, leaving Flamesy, the young guy, the young prospect, trying to spray up on the ladder. Not really going to work out for him. 11-1. And again, you look at this and you think, like, are there any positives that you can maybe draw from this? I don't think there are.
You having a faster workday, I guess, could be one positive that you pull from this. You know, Vince, when you hit me up and asked me, hey, Dust, you want to cast with me again like old times? And I was like, yeah, man, that sounds great. Yeah, I assumed that we would be casting Counter-Strike together. I didn't realize that we were doing Awesome Games Done Quick. You know, I thought that charity event was something that was more of a variety gamer stream and, you know, happened kind of, you know, later on in the year. But no, apparently we're doing it right now, Vince. And you're welcome, I guess. Get the rest of those fights for tomorrow. This is rough, man. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm a color commentator / analyst. What am I supposed to analyze here, Vince? mousesports win every round. They lose 1 player each time that they win the round. That's it. That's all that's happening. This is rough.
Yeah, this has been the most one-sided map of the entire tournament so far, at least that I've seen. And it doesn't seem like it's going to change anytime soon. Even when Frozen gets caught out of position, Mighty Max still can't quite put him down. Some damage inflicted. Actually, pardon me, there was no damage inflicted. I thought Frozen got tagged. They were all still at 100. Jeez, Surreal has the right idea with his crosshair, but doesn't pull the trigger, doesn't want to give his position away. Meanwhile, mousesports starting to congregate back over on the B side of the map, and this is where Frozen's position is huge. Even if the T's get on the side, and that's a big if, by the way, then Frozen can just crunch them. I've stayed on board with him because I assume he is eventually going to get a kill, and there we go. He does just that. Endpoint get 2 kills, but it's at the cost of another round.
Hey, they got more than 1 kill this round, Vince, so there is progress being made. The problem is that usually you need more rounds to kind of build on that progress into a winning result, and they don't have that room anymore because there's 2 more rounds left to play in this half. One thing I do want to point out that is positive, so I can stop getting away from Endpoint just getting dominated. I know you were following Frozen there, but I want to throw a point to Rops because he just played so patient. Like, he basically saw all of them running down ramp, but he didn't take the shot. He just kind of stayed at Pop Dog, waited, kind of just played the patience game, and it's cool to see that because Rops, you know, he's not the young prospect anymore. He's a seasoned veteran at this point, but what was kind of unique about him in the early days was that he wasn't one of these young, flashy entry fraggers that was just wild and pushing, and he was that patient, kind of slow, methodical, lurker, clutch type player, and that's what he illustrated that round, just being super patient and doing great work. But now Endpoint finally seem to have a spark in them. They've gotten the 2 entries here. They must capitalize on this.
And mousesports maybe insulated, though, from that spark and the electricity doing nothing. Chris J setting this round on fire again. Endpoint cannot catch a break, or perhaps they can. Robin getting a kill. That could be his first kill. Actually, it's his second of the match. So at least he is starting to awaken now. He is a solid player most of the time, so it is quite surprising. But Mighty Max, he's on the long con. He's rotating all the way around the back. The good news for mousesports is that Rops isn't perched in connector, but actually above it in heaven. So that will allow him some safe passage. Meanwhile, his teammate of Frozen is moving in. Mighty Max about to be spotted. Gets put down by Rops, who again is patient just to see if he can find that second player showing his head. It is Robin. 30 seconds, has control over the bomb. Nading onto Pop Dog, that gives his position away. They now know he's on the A site. They now know what's coming up, and they can move accordingly. Frozen on the prowl, finding Robin and one-taps him, just putting some style on top of the 13-1 lead.
Were you following Rops that entire time, or did you switch over?
I switched a couple times, yeah.
Okay, so Robs, again, he gets the kill from Heaven, but notice how he doesn't look to make progress in the site. He actually backs out into Z for safe cover. And again, I love that from Robs. He is playing this so methodically. He's always giving his team the best chance to win by decision making. You know, it would have been easy for him just to get that kill from Heaven and look for the second frag, but he doesn't. He holds back, he gets into safe position where he knows that his backside is covered, and he just waits for his teammate to get into position, lets him make the play. So again, really good demonstration of patience. Play from Rops, and now Rops gets faced with a little bit more multi-frag situation. He's able to get one and make the information call. Now the bomb will get planted. This will be a tough post-plant for Endpoint.
Tough, but one of their better opportunities to double up in the first half. They haven't really had many of these chances so far. Most of these rounds, they have just been battered over the head. Blunt force trauma style off mousesports, who have stomped their way into a 13-1 lead. But here we go. Is there more finesse behind this Endpoint retake? Oh no! Splattered through the smoke. And a molly frag on Crucial to add salt in the wounds. Flamesy, at least perched up, is able to get the one before Frozen taps him down. Mighty Max on the other side of the smoke is trying to deal with a defusal, but it's not going to be good enough. And mousesports take the 14-1 lead at halftime.
That was hard to watch, man. I don't know if you caught all of the shenanigans that took place there towards the bomb, but essentially Crucial just sat in a fire and died. I don't know why he didn't move out of it. He literally just kind of sat. I think he thought it wasn't going to spread far enough to keep hitting him, and he knew that he couldn't really peek sidewalk or side because he would just die. So he was kind of gambling that the fire wouldn't spread far enough to kill him, but it did, of course. And then, yeah, just to spam inside the smoke during the defuse, missing every single bullet. That's one of those just unlucky moments where you just happen to pre-fire the wrong spot. You know, maybe you think that the diffuser is a little bit more out than he is, and you're hoping that you'll get him, and then he eventually gets killed through the smoke spam from mousesports aside. And that was just, I don't want to call it a comedy of errors, because I don't feel like Endpoint made necessarily like any huge glaring mistakes, but it's just the same old story that we saw the whole half, which is just they were always playing from behind. They never really felt grounded or comfortable in that half. mousesports had their way with them, and I mean, again, Frozen has pretty much the entire team of Endpoint covered by himself as far as fragging power goes. I mean, what, there's 26 kills in total on Endpoint, and Frozen has 24? I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty grim, isn't it? Doesn't make for good reading if you are an Endpoint fan in chat right now. Probably pulling your hair out. Ooh, a goosh into the back of a teammate. BMAS takes the brunt of that, but still coming out with kills. Surreal and Mighty Max posting up a real defense, but how much longer will that wall hold? It is beginning to get demolished. Robin in with the USP. Let's at least get one. We'll keep mousesports honest in this post-plant. But whatever happens, options available to them in the next round. Robin now spinning around looking for more players. He was worried about Ivy. Doesn't know where that second player is. Now he knows where both the T's remain. No kit, though, or grenades will be an issue. He has to try and make a play out of nothing. If he actually wants to clutch this round, he needs to take the initiative. And in doing so, the Glock shot from Chris J passes through his head. 14 map points.
You know, Vince, I haven't casted Counter-Strike in a while, and I still feel like I haven't.
Bit of a warm-up game, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. Now, worth noting that mousesports changed things up a bit. Last series, they picked Dust 2 against Endpoint and got absolutely smashed. I think it was 16-8. they have chosen Mirage this time around as the second map of this series. And it seems like we're not too far from seeing that map, unless somehow, some way, Endpoint can make this force fire work. They got a couple of scouts, a few deagles, sparse utility, and really just a prayer. That is really all that they can do at this point, is just hope for the best, it feels, because their play has not been that of a team that really seems to have a chance of winning this map or even posing some type of comeback threat. I hope that they can prove me wrong, though, Vince. I mean, this Endpoint team has been a really cool story in the online era that we've been in this year. They've had some good games against some more notable teams, if I'm being honest with you, compared to the Endpoint brand, but today they have not really shown up in the same way.
No, they haven't. We'll hope that it's the exception to the rule, though, as it looks like they are going to cartwheel out of this map. Crash and burn on train. The derailment is nearly complete, crucial. Can't make any of the deagle shots stick, and, well, I mean, that last round pretty much summarizes this entire map.